I can't think of a car that has cultivated die-hard fans as fast as the Elantra N. But when I made a comparison with it last year as I was car shopping, I was impressed, not blown away. Over a year later, after driving all of its competitors, I think the Elantra N deserves a closer look. These days, Hyundai can do a lot. They can build affordable rides. They can make luxury cars. They can draw Land Rovers from memory. But you know what they do best? Resource allocation. They set a clear goal. They know it's important to reach it. They know what the target audience likes. And they're smart about where they save costs to meet a price point. I believe that's how Hyundai, a brand with minimal fun car heritage and a work-in-progress reputation, managed to build a lovable beast. Briefly, if you enjoy fun, detailed car content, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. If we can hit 100,000 subs before 2026, I'll make another special, financially questionable series of your choosing. Thank you. The Elantra N at its core is about bringing you the most capability for the least money. In order to achieve that, you need a gutsy engine. And in this case, we have Hyundai's 2-liter turbocharged Theta 2 engine. The way this delivers power is best described as effective. Turbo lag is slight, and you don't need to rev it to the max for all 276 ponies, which might hinder the character depending on who you ask, but it makes for great speed. It hits you with this big boot of torque at low RPM, and it holds on until the top of the tack. You can get this to 60 in a hair under 5 seconds with ideal conditions and the 2-pedal model. The 6-speed manual gearbox has 2 less ratios to work with, and it can't snap through them like the DCTs. So the numbers will say that it's slower, but it still feels quick, especially through corners. However, I will admit with 3 pedals, it's not as spry as my old GR Corolla or the Civic Type R. That's because it's not octane land. Sure, because I need to tell my car to optimize for the fuel that it already recommends every time I refill. I don't make the rules. Fine, it would take me 45 minutes to get to a place where I could cruise at over 70 miles per hour without hitting traffic for a sustained period. Did you try staying in between 40 and 70% throttle in 4th or 5th gear for 5 minutes or longer? Yeah, and now I'm a felon, and my boost pressure is still the same. Tough. Should've just tuned it, bro. Whether the engine is operating at its peak or not, the Elantra N can pick up speed rapidly, especially with the 8-speed DCT. I got to drive that with the Kona N, and as much as I hate to say it, I think this makes its best argument in automatic form. It pulls off rapid shifts, it has smart tuning, and it has great gearing. If speed is more fun to you than being the most involved in the driving experience, then I think you'll really love the automatic version of this car. However, for me, I have to have a car like this with a stick shift, so how is the 6-speed? It's not, I mean, the shifter is not too precise or satisfying. It feels like a plasticky replica of the mechanically glorious Type R shifter. The clutch has this soft, kind of vague feeling to it. The gearing, because this engine makes so much torque in the mid-range, doesn't need to be too aggressive, so it isn't. And the end result is a transmission that feels more like an economy car manual. It's not the worst thing that I've driven by any means, but the biggest selling point is the handling. After driving this last year, I drove the Civic Type R, and while I found that to be more engaging, this is just as sharp. It holds on like a dog that just stole your steak. The limited slip differential has a clutch pack in it to help distribute torque side to side, and it does a great job of pulling you out of corners. and the velocity that you can carry into them takes a little getting used to. The body roll is minimal. Those Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires keep this glued to the ground. I really don't see the front wheel drive being a problem here, at least in the dry. I think on some roads it would be fun to have the rear wheels doing their part as well. Even torque steer is remarkably well kept. I think the only place where this isn't quite as over-engineered as the Type R is with wheel hop. You'll definitely get that if you're sitting there trying to do 0 to 60s. But as long as you're not driving like a complete ass, that shouldn't be an issue. It is eager to turn in. The suspension keeps this confident. In fact, I think Hyundai did the damping here better than Honda did, while coming in about $11,000 cheaper. And that's before Honda dealers invent a creative way to steal your money. To be fair, I found the steering in the Hyundai to be less talkative near center, and because this has a quick ratio, it causes it to feel less natural there, especially under lighter loads. However, bring up the pace, push it harder, and it flips the script. This has more feedback than I remember. To enjoy this car to its fullest, you really do have to disrespect it. And the last time I drove it, I just didn't get to experience enough of that. The next time I drive it, it'll be on a track. There's also track timers and a manual transmission launch control mode that you shouldn't use. And because of the dizzying amount of settings that you can play with here in the infotainment, you can tailor the Elantra N to your preferences. Like for me, I want the exhaust sound, but I don't want the rev matching, and I don't want the steering to be artificially firm, so I can adjust that. And you can't have a go-fast track vehicle without track brakes. And these are great. Super easy to modulate, very reassuring, reasonably large. The only thing they're missing is an open back caliper design, which allows for faster pad changes. But those aren't necessary for you to drive fast or have a good time. Instead, this hammers out the fundamentals, and they don't forget about the flair. I think that's something that a lot of people just like. This does not need to make pops and bangs to go fast. It's just cool. And in order to be a hot sedan mainstay, it also needs to look distinct. And I think Hyundai did achieve that here, but I also find it to be really busy. Now for 2026, Hyundai has announced for the US, the Elantra N is exactly the same. There are no changes. In Canada though, you can get the new TCR edition, which has purposeful upgrades to make this an absolute monster on the track. However, it looks like someone picked up an eBay spoiler and installed it backward. I think for that look to really work, they needed to give this a wide body kit, but I'll let you guys duke that one out in the comments section. One thing I would like to add, I think the white paint color here works better with all the black and red accenting than the blue. And to help protect all of this loud bodywork, you do have standard parking sensors, and you even get standard proximity entry. On the inside, this feels solid for a compact in most areas, but the quality and tech are not perfect. The clutch in this one has a slight squeak. There's a rattle here and there. The infotainment can be a little hard to read and navigate. CarPlay is not wireless. But like I said in the beginning, Hyundai is willing to save money in certain areas to invest it in other areas that the target audience might appreciate more, like illuminating the N logo or designing these bucket seats that maybe are a bit down on lumbar support, but they're still reasonably comfortable, they're firm, and they squeeze your thighs like those jeans you should stop wearing. You also have a cheap feeling but real handbrake, simple buttons and dials for the things you're going to use the most, a punchy Bose sound system, an overload of data if you want it, and a crisp digital dash. Honda might make a better interior if you ask me, but I think the cost savings more than compensate. The back seat is also large enough for adults. It's goofy that there's no center armrest and there's a big chassis brace blocking the pass-through, but this has enough practicality to operate as a family vehicle if it needs to be. And for a commute, when you put this into its normal or eco modes, the ride is definitely going to be firm, but the damping becomes smooth. Over roads that get less attention than a boring professor, the Elantra N offers a compliant ride given the performance. You can daily this in a lot of cities with little issue. Sure, there is a pretty good amount of highway road noise, but really nothing more than what you would find with most of its foes. And for long journeys, you still have a pretty good lane centering system to reduce fatigue as well. Now for long-term running costs, the tires here are very expensive. You're going to be using premium fuel, and while this does have a class-leading warranty, the reliability of Hyundais in the past has been hit or miss. But let's focus on the car, not the brand. There are a lot more positive impressions than negative over on the forums. The most common issues so far have been from interior rattles, horns not working, and knock sensors throwing a fit after car washes. More serious concerns came initially from fuel pump and DCT oil pump recalls, but I don't read many actual reports of failures. However, we have been seeing more injector issues lately. Because major problems appear rare, I wouldn't be scared to recommend this to the car enthusiast that cares about the long haul. Oftentimes, your most compelling work comes at a time when you have something to prove, and that is the case with the Elantra N. Hyundai grabbed the best people that they could, they listened to what people want, and most importantly, they gave people a sports sedan that they could afford. I think it's that last part that has earned this the loyalty it has. We're constantly shown these high capability driver's cars that are almost untouchable because of price point or rarity or both. And I think the Elantra N is seen as the rebel to all of that. This isn't my personal sport compact pick. Some other cars pay closer attention to the details, offer up all-wheel drive, pack a more rev-happy engine, or a satisfying manual, but if they're under 50 grand US, they might still end up in the rear view of the Elantra N. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my channel members for helping me improve my videos. Consider joining for additional content. I'll catch you in the next one.